When we go back to Kyurako's conversation with Ukitake about the king's body parts, we notice that Kyurako mentioned something important about the power of Ryu. Kyurako said that the power of the king's body parts grants blessings to those who possess them. We've seen this with many characters, whether in the manga or what's mentioned in the novels. However guys, Ukitake remains the only Shinigami who had an important part of the Soul King inside him, the right arm. And this arm didn't just stop the deadly effects of his lung disease, but also influenced the creation of his Zanpakuto. That's why guys, in this video, we'll explore how Ryu's body affected different races in Bleach's story, including Ukitake's Zanpakuto. First of all guys, Kyurako's statement is true. Every drop, every atom of Ryu gives a certain power to those who have it. In a way, we could say that Ryu is similar to the Hogyuku. I still remember when the manga was ongoing and Ryu hadn't appeared yet. Some fans thought that Ryu was actually a special type of a large Hogyuku that maintained the balance of the worlds. That's why Aizen consider it just a thing, because the Hogyuku plays a similar role to the King's fragments in awakening the full-bring power in humans. A good example of this is Chad and Orihime, whose powers come from the Hogyuku. But what we know for sure is that the King's body parts, no matter what they are, grants humans full-bring abilities. As for the Quincy's guys, it's not clear yet how the King's body parts affect those with them. It's possible that these parts also gave a significant boost to the Quincy powers. For example, it was said that Gerard and Pernida already had their own powers before giving Schrift, unlike the other Shonen, though there is a big difference between Gerard and Pernida. Gerard was only given the King's heart, likely by Yuaba, and Pernida is the King's left hand, which Kyurako mentioned represents the power of advancement. And this means that all the abilities we saw from Pernida were its own powers, especially since Pernida considered itself a Quincy from the start, using arrows and BLEACH, things we associate with the Quincy's. And I think that if Pernida was inside a Quincy body, it would give that Quincy great Quincy powers. And this guys leads us to talk about Mimihagi. If we consider Pernida was representing the Quincy side of Ryu, then Mimihagi represents the Shinigami side. And years ago, I suggested that the King's hands or the King's arms might reflect his contradictory web. One hand or one arm representing the wish to preserve the old world and the other representing the wish to create a new one. Pernida wanted the old world, the same as Yuaba, and both considered themselves Quincy's. On the other hand, Mimihagi somehow fell to the Soul Society, aligning with the Shinigami side and staying there for a long time. And Mimihagi even saved a small soul like Ukitake, who would later become one of the prominent captains in the Goji 13. And before the release of the full flashback of Ukitake in the anime, I really wanted to know when Ukitake learned that Mimihagi was inside him, because in the manga we never saw exactly what happened. We just saw a 3-year-old Ukitake in a terrible state. And then Ukitake spoke about what happened to him after that event. And one idea that I have at the time is that maybe Ukitake didn't know what had happened to him until he got older. Perhaps his parents told him, or he discovered that truth when he wanted to awaken his Asauchi and then got his Shikai. However guys, the full flashback of Ukitake in the anime showed something completely different. On the night they took Ukitake to Mimihagi's shrine, Ukitake learned the whole truth. When Mimihagi tears flowed into young Ukitake, this scene appeared, which could be the inner world of Ukitake's soul. And this suggests that even before becoming a Shinigami, souls can have an inner world that hints at their future powers, like how Ichigo entered into his inner world before awakening his Shinigami powers. The watcher or seeing Ukitake's inner world might symbolize the nature of his Zanpakuto, Sogyo no Kotoari, which means the law of the twin fish. Another thing to mention guys is that Kyurako said in a novel that the second sword that appears when Ukitake activates his Shikai is due to Mimihagi's influence. In other words, if Ukitake didn't have his illness and simply became a Shinigami, his Shikai would probably have been a single sword, not two. But having Mimihagi changed Ukitake's Shinigami powers significantly, because when we see young Ukitake with Mimihagi, it suggests that Ukitake had two powers, his own and Mimihagi's. And we can compare this to Ichigo, who has both Shinigami and Quincy powers, and his Shikai also has two blades. So Ukitake's Shikai has two swords too, one of which is because of Mimihagi. Moreover guys, the fourth episode of the third part revealed something that supports the theory. When Mimihagi was defending Ryu, it used something similar to lightning. It also appeared that Ukitake was somehow controlling Mimihagi and directing it to defend Ryu. That's why Mimihagi might have been using Ukitake's Shikai powers in that defense, including the lightning ability. And this is especially clear when we know that when Ukitake wanted to perform the Kamikake ritual and release Mimihagi, he used his Zanpakuto, not something else. And this is evidence of how deeply connected Mimihagi is to Ukitake's Zanpakuto. In Shikai, the effect is a second blade, allowing Ukitake to absorb and reflect attacks. And as I said, there could be more abilities Ukitake had, like using lightning attacks just as Mimihagi did against Yuaba. But unfortunately guys, we don't have enough battles involving Ukitake to fully understand how his Zanpakuto works. As for his Bankai, all we have are speculations. Many, including myself, hoped we can see a moment where Ukitake releases his Bankai, or at least a flashback showing him using it, but that never happened. Another problem guys is that Ukitake's Zanpakuto might change completely if we see him in the Hell arc, because as you know, Ukitake now in Hell and Mimihagi is no longer with him, and this could explain why only one sword appeared in Ukitake's Shikai in the Hell one-shot instead of two, as Mimihagi is no longer inside him. And as Kyoraku said, Mimihagi was the reason Ukitake had two swords. Therefore, I believe Ukitake's Bankai could be a mix of offensive power, like using lightning as Mimihagi did in its attacks against Yuaba, and defensive power, use Mimihagi's ability to nullify attacks completely. That's why I wonder if Ukitake's Zanpakuto will undergo a complete transformation in the Hell arc without Mimihagi, or if even without Mimihagi, his Zanpakuto will keep its basic abilities in both Shikai and Bankai. That's why we will likely get more answers when the Hell arc chapters are released. What's certain is that Mimihagi played a big role in shaping Ukitake's Zanpakuto, but as I said, unfortunately, we didn't get to see enough details or deeper exploration of it, either in battles or something like that. In the end guys, what do you think about Mimihagi and its role in shaping the sword or the Zanpakuto of Ukitake? Tell me guys your opinions in the comments, and see you guys in my next video.